looking at that emblem, see on the front of the NME, I was looking at that when I was sitting out in the halfway. That made a good thing of that. Mackay family What these things?
You like it?
I'd be the death of you.
Like it feel hot, don't they?
No, shut up.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils and snares, we have already gone. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we know there's days to sing God's praise, and when we'd first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I
Good morning. My name is Kate Tyler Weber, and my role here today is to help celebrate the life and pay tribute to the late Bruce Kenneth Hastie. Bruce passed away on the 16th of August. Bruce was 92 years of age. On behalf of Leonie, I would like to welcome each of you here today this morning and to say a heartfelt thank you for your presence. The family would also like to acknowledge and thank those who aren't able to be here today because of the current restrictions. But I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of Leonie those that are watching online to say their farewells. For those that have joined us online, firstly, the family would like to say thank you for taking time out of your day to join them. Although you're not physically here, your presence is definitely felt. Those here in the chapel are thinking of you. Not being able to physically be here present is heartbreaking. Having to say your farewells through a screen is just not right. A special mention for those joining us online this morning goes to Gwyneth, Robert and Leanne, and their daughters, Jessica and Ashley, and to Clive as well, who's not able to be here. But we know you're watching and saying your farewells to Bruce. Can I ask Wayne to come and say the eulogy now?
Gone but not forgotten. Don't think of him as gone away. His journey's just begun. Life holds so many facets. This earth is only one. Just think of him as resting from the sorrows and the tears in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days and years. Think of how he must be wishing that we could know today how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. And think of him as living in the hearts of those he touched, for nothing loved is ever lost, and he was loved so much. Bruce Hastie, a very decent, a very caring, very lovely man, and an absolute character. Bruce's father, Frank, was a gentleman's gentleman, as Bruce would put it, travelling the world before immigrating to Australia. He had told Bruce that everything he needed to see was in Australia, and Bruce took this to heart, never being one to travel far from home. His father would immigrate to Australia and meet Bruce's mother, Dorothy, before returning to Europe to serve in World War I. A few years after his return from war, his father and mother would marry and raise their family in Haberfield. Bruce was born in Summerhill on the 9th of May 1929 and would go to school in Drummoyne. He was the youngest of three. He had an older brother, Dudley, and an older sister, Wynne. Unfortunately, both of them are no longer with us. As a youngster, Bruce enjoyed his sport, but he had a passion for tennis, a passion that would last a lifetime. And by all accounts, Bruce was a pretty handy player, playing A grade in the local Sydney competitions. Even long after he finished playing, he kept his interest and would watch tennis on television every chance he got. His annual routine was to sit up into the early hours of the morning to watch Wimbledon. And of course, he could tell you all about the players of the past, how they played, why they did certain things. His knowledge was quite amazing. And of course, it was tennis that would lead him to his greatest love, his wife Leonie. Bruce and Leonie would meet playing tennis and marry in 1956, enjoying 65 years together. Bruce and Leonie would initially live in a unit at Dulwich Hill before buying a home at Belmore, and then when Bruce retired, they would move to Badu Bay on the Central Coast. Bruce's entire working life was involved in real estate. Interestingly enough, that started all by chance. As a schoolchild, he lived opposite a banker, and the bank manager asked his father if he would like a job over the school holidays. Bruce, not even knowing what it was, said yes, and turned up to work expecting to pack groceries or stock shelves, and instead he started work at a real estate agent's. He must have done something right, because when he finished school they offered him a job and he was happy to take it. Bruce's job at Ziegler and Hoyle would go on for some years, and with a work colleague they would buy the company together and Bruce would own his own real estate company. Real estate, though, was not something Bruce was all that enthusiastic about, but as he said, sometimes you have to do what you have to do to earn some money. One thing we all know about Bruce is how much he enjoyed his lollies and his chocolates. And I know that started early, because Bruce in his younger years got into a bit of trouble over chocolate. Living near the railway line, he would go down with the other boys and collect chocolates and things that the American soldiers would throw from the train. Of course, the best of them were often left inside the fence, but that was too much temptation for Bruce. And eventually he got caught, and as Bruce put it, I had to go to court and stand in front of the beak. It didn't do him too much trouble though, because it never changed his love for his chocolates and his lollies. But Bruce was very generous with his lollies and his chocolates. And I know this, not because he told me, but because I saw him do it on so many occasions. He would sell tickets at Hastie and give each person who bought the tickets some lollies. When he asked me to get something electrical fixed at his home once, I rang the electrician, and a man in his mid-30s came and told me that when he first started his business, he'd come and done some work for Bruce. When he finished, Bruce paid him and gave him a handful of lollies. The electrician said to me, "One thing you know about Bruce, when you finish your job, you'll always get paid and you'll always leave with a handful of lollies." And then there was the lady at the club. We went to lunch one day and the lady behind the desk recognised him. She told the story of how her daughter had been a paper girl and delivered the paper to Bruce every day. And every day she would deliver the paper and Bruce would give her some lollies for her effort. And of course there's many others, including his doctor, who would always get a chocolate when Bruce visited. That was just Bruce's way. And when in later years I would ring to organise a grocery list with Leonie and tell Bruce, I just need to talk to Leonie to organise the groceries, he'd say, make sure there's some chocolates in the grocery list. And of course I had to let him know that was already ticked off. That was a given. Of course, there was always Bruce's jokes and funny sayings, and mixed in with all of that, his words of wisdom. Whenever you spoke to Bruce, he would have some new jokes for you that he'd heard, and he'd rattle them off in quick succession. He even kept a folder so that when people gave him a joke, printed it out or photocopied it, he would put it in his folder, and then if you hadn't seen him for a while, out would come the folder, and he'd run through his latest jokes that he'd got with you and get you to have a laugh. Of course, he did love to ring the radio station and order a song on the radio for him. Of course, he would ring up and using his usual call sign for the radio, "It's Bruce the Goose from Badu Bay," before he would tell them which song he liked to play. In recent days, I found an exercise book where Bruce wrote down all his songs. There was pages and pages of them, and there was a range of them, from classics to country and western, and even some modern music. And then there was one that I found there that quite intrigued me, and I thought this was very Bruce. One called Old Farts and Caravan Parks. Having not heard it, I had to listen to it, and as I listened to it and chuckled, I thought this is very much a song that Bruce would ring up and ask for. Bruce also had his funny sayings, and one that always amused me was Bruce's check before he'd leave the house. If you left the house, you'd say to Bruce, "Are you ready to go?" And he'd do his check. Wallet, watches, spectacles and testicles, he'd say. All with hand gestures appropriate to the saying. And then, subject to a satisfactory check, he'd give you a wink and say, "I'm ready to go." And of course, Bruce, when he was asked his name when people checked it wherever you went, including recently with the nurse for his COVID shot, they'd ask, "Are you Bruce Hastie?" And he'd say, "Bruce Hastie, but never in a hurry." Very Bruce. Amongst all the fun though, Bruce would slide in his words of wisdom. Of course, one of my favourites was, "There is no prize for being the richest bloke in the cemetery." A simple way of Bruce reminding people that money was not everything. And Bruce, of course, would take his own advice, retiring in his early 50s and enjoying a simple life in retirement. And in recent years, Bruce would say to me, "The worst disease you can ever get is old age." It was again a simple way of him telling me of the difficulties and struggles of getting older. I believe that the true measure of someone's life is the memories and happiness that they leave us with when they've departed. By that measure, Bruce's life was a fine one. Bruce gave so many people the gift of happiness and laughter through simple acts of kindness. Like me, I'm sure all of you share memories of Bruce that will make us smile into the future. And Bruce would like that. For me, every time I leave the house and find myself repeating Bruce's house check, I'll smile and think of Bruce. We love you, Bruce. And I know that there'll be no shortage of lollies and jokes in heaven. One sure there.
Thank you, Wayne. Some beautiful memories there with some chuckles about the lollies. That made me giggle a bit. We're now going to pause the service and we're going to put some images up on the screen of memories. And hopefully there'll be some new memories that you can create from these images as well.
There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more.
We're now going to give everyone an opportunity to come forward to say your final farewells to Bruce. We're going to play a piece of music, and once the music starts playing, I ask you to come over and take a flower and place it on Bruce's casket. You can say your goodbyes, give him a little kiss, say a silent prayer, but most importantly, say your farewells. It is now time to commit Bruce's physical body to the elements. But before we do, however, let us be thankful and grateful for his life. Please pause and remember the impact that Bruce has had in your life. You will each remember Bruce's life by the memories he leaves behind. Those of us who feel deeply will grieve deeply. No philosophy or religion ever taught has prevented this natural reaction to the human heart. We came into this world with nothing and we depart with nothing. However, it's the memories that we leave behind with our family and friends that mark our life success, as Wayne mentioned before as well. Bruce, as you watch over those you love, I know that when you listen to the ocean, it will be your whispers that your family hear. You're watching over your family and guiding them towards the future. This is not goodbye, but thank you. Thank you for touching our lives and giving us joy. Thank you for the memories we will cherish forever. Thank you for the good times and for the loyalty to family and friends. Thank you for your love and for your laughter. Your life we honour, your departure we accept, and your memory we cherish. Can you please be upstanding if you want to? As your spirit and soul rises from your earthly being, know that your family and friends are here to say farewell. Earth to earth, dust to dust, we bid you peace and farewell. We're now going to say the Lord's Prayer. Feel free to join with me. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Please be seated. Today you have come together to say your farewells to Bruce, as we know. But we now greet the Bruce who will live on in our thoughts and memories. We rejoice in the happy memories of his life. We are grateful that he lived. We are grateful that we have seen his face, we've heard his voice, felt the touch of his hand, and shared his love and friendship. On behalf of Leonie, once again I thank you for your presence here today, both physically in the chapel and those joining us online. The family would like to say a huge thank you for the love and friendship that each of you have shown to Bruce during his lifetime. Typically at this point of the service, I'd be inviting you to join the family somewhere for a cup of tea or coffee and to share some memories. However, COVID has stolen this very special part of the day. What is still very important though is that you find a way to share what you are carrying. You've each arrived here today with memories, and you've all shared moments of time. A place with Bruce. Please find a way to still share these memories with one another. This is what will keep Bruce living in your thoughts and in your memories and in your hearts. Thank you.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Might are the wind beneath my wings.